This interview is brought to you by Fortinet Federal. How can your agency improve network visibility, control, and cyber defense? With advanced technology and expert support from Fortinet Federal. Advance your mission with modern, trusted networks that connect data centers, clouds, and remote users. For more, see FortinetFederal.com.
Hi, I'm Jordan McDonald, staff writer with GovCIO Media and Research. Today, I'm joined by Juan Ramirez, director of the 5G cross-functional team at the DOD. Thanks for joining us, Juan.
Thanks so much for having me. It's actually great to see you and meet you in person from our last discussion. So I really appreciate you taking the time to have me here.
Absolutely. Juan, as the director of the 5G cross-functional team, there's a lot of news around 5G generally. Could you help us understand, the potential of 5G as it relates to the DOD and how the cross-functional team is looking to, unlock it for the department?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. I think it's a great question and a great starting point too, especially for those folks who may not know what the potential 5G has for the department. What we're looking at within the cross-functional team, and for those who don't know what the cross-functional team is, it's an organization that's brought together with a mission, and it's an exciting one. It's actually deploying and implementing 5G within the department. The great thing about this is we actually have SMEs from all over the department. So we have folks embedded from the military department. We have folks from research, from R&E, from ANS, and from even more recently, DIU. The cool thing about that is we're able to bring everybody together and actually come up with a holistic vision for 5G and actually see it implemented from cradle to grave. And when I say cradle to grave, we're actually taking it from a concept. We're looking at the potential for research and development and then carrying it through for its acquisition possibilities so that the services can actually, adopt it, buy something, tangibly touch it, as I like to say. Now, as far as what the potential is, we see that 5G enables you to deliver information faster, which is important to the warfighter. Actually, it reduces latency times. It enables you to actually deploy technology that can support the warfighter in the actual AOR, but also enhance the network infrastructure, which is important because, as we've seen here at TechNet Cyber, Fulcrum was just talked about. And so it's our new strategy within the department, focused within CIO. And as we look at the different lines of effort that Fulcrum talks about, 5G is called out. So it's another important thing because you see that it's actually a priority for the department. Specific to 5G though, like in our line of effort too, where we talk about modernizing the information networks for computing and to rapidly meet mission needs, 5G is essential there. So this is where we see the potential is for 5G. And again, working with industry, you see the technology aspects or the technology, and I'm going to put air quotes, things that are possible. It can solve a lot of different solutions and present different opportunities. So one of the things that we did before, in the last couple of years, we've spent money on research and development and looking at the potential 5G had. We actually built private networks at certain military installations to test certain things, and now that we built that 5G network and we've actually built that 5G, what I would say, infrastructure, we're actually able to see that the services or that military installation can go from just, hey, I wanted to build a smart warehouse, and actually build that capability and say, I want to actually take it to the next level and actually build a smart installation. And so you're actually building upon those different technologies or those architectures that, at first you thought were just going to solve one answer, and now it's actually being able to be adopted and take over and actually solve multiple things.
Absolutely. You mentioned Fulcrum. I'm also thinking about larger interoperability efforts like CJAD, C2. How does 5G tie in all of this? Why is it so critical for these larger projects as well?
Yeah, definitely. So GovCIO was focused on how we could have interoperability between our military partners, so that as you did one thing, it was able to carry it out to the enterprise and you could actually see benefits between each of the services. As we bring in C for the C2, we're actually working with interagency partners now and actually taking our capabilities and scaling it, and ensuring that what we're able to do and accomplish within CONUS or within CONUS can be scaled out. And, as we look at different architectures or different technologies, we have to ensure that there's interoperability between us as well as our Five Eyes partners or other nations. And so one of the things that we, especially within the CFT, are working with, and also interagency, which is great because, as I kind of alluded to last, just discussing about the CFT, we're actually opening up and talking now with our interagency partners. So working with commerce, working with state to ensure that as we progress and see what the possibilities are of 5G within our current community, within DOD, that it actually can be extended out. So one of the things that we're looking at is, for instance, in the secure mobile working group, how can we ensure that we have connectivity, as simple as your device, that you can make a phone call and call your 5G's partner in London, ensure that that's connected, ensure that you can actually hear somebody and talk to them, but also ensure that the data that you're transmitting is secure. And those are things that are now a possibility as we've developed CJAD-C2, as well as looking to instill our Fulcrum strategy that was just released. So it's a lot. It's a moving and shaking opportunity, but that's what 5G has. And that's even what the potential of future G has, is it's not just one technology that's going to be stagnant. It's something that has ever changing. And that's what I'm excited. And I love saying excited just because it's one of those things where I get jazzed to talk about this. But that's one of the things that we're trying to accomplish within the CFT and what we can see as the potential as we expand this.
Yeah. And speaking of potential, how do you see the 5G working within the department? Is it sort of a one-size-fits-all? Would the requirements, shift depending on what part of the department would be using 5G?
Yeah, that's a great question. As we look within our overall mission for deploying 5G, we're really doing it within 3 lines of effort. Your question, is it a one-size-fits-all? It depends. And I used to be a budget person. I was in the comptroller for 20 years. So I loved answering something, it depends, because there is no one answer. I think as we look at the line of effort 1, our focus is building out that 5G infrastructure so that you have commercial broadband available for the services. And really it's a recruitment and retention ability for military service members as they're on base to ensure that they have connectivity, whether it's connectivity in their training center, connectivity at home, just to make sure, and I put this in layman terms, just to make sure that you can connect. And, you've had a long day, but you want to be able to go on and, technically watch a movie, or you want to be able to do training exercises. You want to make sure you have that connection. So I think in that aspect, that is that one size almost commonality that you see amongst the services in line of effort 1. But as you get to line of effort 2 and line of effort 3, that's where we're looking at the capability and the potential of 5G. What can 5G do specific to a military installation and meet a specific need? Or what can 5G deploy in a tactical environment? And so in that aspect, it's going to change. It's going to depend. But really what we're trying to do, especially within the CFT, is look at it from both aspects, because as you know, budgets are waning. So if everybody had all the money in the world, everybody would have their own solution. Everybody would have their own private network, but that's not a possibility. And it just doesn't make sense either. So what we're doing within the CFT is we've developed a reference architecture that is meant to provide a commonality. Like, this is what an architecture should look like. Yes, we get it that, say Juan has a need for, and I'm a baker, so I always go with baking references. Juan has a need to bake a chocolate cake. But you yourself may have a need to bake a German chocolate cake, and nobody else has that need. That bespoke capability, 5G has that ability to provide you that private network so you can make your chocolate cake and German chocolate cake, and it's going to be the best out there. While me, Juan, I'm going to make a chocolate cake that everybody loves and everybody needs and everybody wants. So again, I say it depends. But it's one of those things where we within the CFT are partnering with the services, which didn't happen before. Not that people don't talk, but now there's a common need, a common goal. There is a need to figure out how can you exploit the 5G technologies and how can you leverage those technologies so that if I deploy something like a smart warehouse that we just did within the Department of Navy, that you're going to see a benefit from DLA, you're going to see a garnered benefit from the Army, from Air Force, and they're going to have a need for it. So it's one of those things where it may start off as a bespoke, unique capability, but it's going to be expanded to cover the enterprise, which is ideally what we're looking for.
Absolutely. Thinking about the, flexibility, the bespokeness of these networks, could you sort of help me understand how Open RAN fits in here?
Oh yeah, definitely. So Open RAN is it's a hot topic. It's one of those things that driven by the White House and NSC. Honorable Sherman, when he was our CIO, he's going to be missed. But it is a priority for the department. So Open RAN in concept has the ability to open up and make architectures more modular. So it provides the ability for an architecture to be developed and you're not tied into one vendor. And it's important because one, it makes things cheaper. and I'm going to say in theory because we're starting to see the development and the deployment of Open RAN architectures, but we're starting to see it teased out and actually deployed within the system. And so having the ability to not be tied to one vendor. So if you are out in AOR and you don't have access to, say, industry or vendor number one, you can still plug and play and do different vendors. And so from that aspect, it's supposed to be cheaper. Top of that, it's supposed to inspire or drive more innovation. It gives us the ability to not be tied to one type of technology. And especially as the department, within our view, we're very focused on the RIC, the RAN Intelligent Controller, and the possibility that it has not only for AI and ML, but for other use case development. So like we're starting to see use cases that are being sent out that are focused on how we're going to do spectrum coexistence or spectrum sharing. And those are the technologies that, may have been tied at one point, but now any type of vendor can provide the recommendation and their technology, and we're able to see it being flexible. The other thing too that Open RAN provides is that from a security perspective, and it's something that we're testing out, but it's supposed to be more secure and provide a more secure environment, which, that's the whole spirit of TechNet Cyber. We're here to talk about cybersecurity, and that's one of the things that we're focused on too within Open RAN, and ensuring that those architectures are secure. And that's one of the things that we are, as we're building out that architecture and engineering those concepts, that we are focused on that, which ties back into one of the other missions too that the CFT is focused on, is looking at policies or looking at directives or standards, whatever the case may be, that are more secure. And there's a whole slew of things that we're working on to ensure that as we deploy Open RAN, as we're looking at it from a supply chain, for instance, that we are working with trusted vendors. But as we've talked before, it's the whole concept of trust but verify. Those are the things that we have now built into and developed prototypes, so that let's just say you give me, hey Juan, I'm going to build this one capability. I can actually test and say, okay, I'm going to take your information. I'm going to go down and look at your software, your hardware, and your firmware, and I can run a program against it and actually tell where all of your components are coming from and who the vendors are. And for us, it's important because you're going to start to see different policy come out that really focuses on trusted supply chain. And it's not just something that the department's looking at. You see that within commerce. You see that within state. Those are also things that they're looking at. So it just trying to build that ecosystem within America and ensure that we are giving down to the lower level, the beginning players, the opportunity to grow with us and actually develop secure technology. So.
Absolutely. And totally understanding that we're at TechNet Cyber, cybersecurity, especially within 5G, is something that I find very fascinating and just want to get a better understanding of.
Yeah. It's great. It's one of those things. Cybersecurity is changing too. So it's not just one thing, but what we've seen is, first and foremost, we have that zero trust architecture mindset built into it. On top of that, and just, similar to other technologies, you're laying in additional additional security layers to ensure that it meets your requirement. So as we look at it from a holistic department view, what are the things that we can do? So first and foremost, we start off with policy. Within the CFT, we have a whole team focused on different aspects of policy. So we're looking not only in supply chain, which I just talked ad nauseum about, but we're looking at continuous monitoring. So as you deploy a technology or as you deploy a system within our environment, we're continuously monitoring it to ensure that, is it adhering to standards? Is it adhering to or adopting and implementing the minimum requirements from a secure environment, and ensuring that it is continuous. It's not just, I'm going to verify you once and let you run wild. It's, I'm going to do this on a, I would almost say bi-monthly basis. On top of that, we have a provisional authorization process that we're going to put in place. For those of you who don't know that, it's a standard process that verifies you as an industry player have met the certain cybersecurity requirements or minimum requirements that the department has. And you only have to do it once. You don't have to continuously do it. And so those are things that we're trying to put in place to set up the ability for industry to come in and actually deploy what I'm referring to as commercial technologies faster, because that's actually what we're focused on more now. Where before we were looking at research and development and trying to either build GOT solutions. Now we're trying to implement COT solutions. And as I like to say, zhuzh it up, that commercial technology, and put a little sprinkle of cybersecurity on top of it to make sure that it meets the government standards, and that's what we're going to deploy. And so that's from a policy perspective. On top of that, we already have a zero trust architecture that our team is adamantly, I'm sure they've talked about it and, throughout the TechNet Cyber, but those are things that we're putting in place now that we're ensuring is available and understandable. As I say, I'm making up words here, but understandable from industry. But on top of that, working standards development, really working with industry to push forward those standards that are common amongst all of our technologies, so that as people develop these technologies, it already has the cybersecurity requirements baked in. Those are things that we're also looking at. And so for the upcoming releases, focused on 5G advanced and even future G technologies, those are the things that we're looking at to ensure are in place so that, whether you're the Ericsson or the Nokia or what have you building this technology, it's already going to have the minimum security requirements that the department needs already baked in, and that's key for us.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned Future G. I have to ask about that. I know you're the director of the 5G cross-functional team, but also part of your portfolio is understanding what comes next after that.
Yeah. So definitely 5G is not just the only G. We went from, 1G to 4G to LTE to 5G, and you have to think about future G. The great thing about, as I kind of described the whole makeup of the CFT, we're partnering with R&E. So under Dr. Rundo, who is the future G director, we are partnering hand in hand and ensuring that the technologies that we look at today and that we're employing and even looking at for 5G advanced, that there's a natural flow into future G. And so as we may look at, for instance, non-terrestrial networks, because that is a new technology that is important to the department, and looking at what SATCOM capabilities there are for 5G, there's an inherent need for sensing capabilities that deal with that, that's going to flow into future G. So it makes sense that we partner. So as we look at what we can do today, setting the groundwork for future technologies to come forward, it has to happen. And so that's perfect because, at one point I joked that I was Dr. Rundo's protege. And so it just makes sense that we continue that great relationship that you see within CIO and R&E so that it just paves that path. And what we're seeing too is as he looks at his portfolio, we're reaching back and saying, okay, the technologies that you're looking at, that you're developing and that you're doing research on, how can we integrate that now, or how can we pave the way? So it's almost like, think about it this way where, I had a really good example, but still it's that first version of that, version 1.0, that's something that we're looking at now, but setting the pathway so that version 2.0, when it's ready and it's going to be deployable, that it just has a natural path, not only for sustainment, but that has a natural operational use from the military departments. So that's one of those things that we have to ensure that our mindsets are in sync. As you know, though, we have spirited discussion. So it's not just, this is what we're going to do. It's what is in the best interest of the government and what is in the best interest of the department. And so, as we're looking for future G, those are things that are we have to do. But also too, as I mentioned briefly about standards, right now, release 19 is coming up. It's focused on 5G advanced, but it's getting ready to, pretty much close the door and say, these are the contributions and these are the standard adjustments that we're going to make. But they're actually thinking about future G now for release 20, which is actually what are those technologies that we need to start working with industry to make common standards for? So it's a natural evolution. You have to think about it. And so, it's a great partnership that we have, and it's coming.
Absolutely. And, if it's coming, we'll be there to cover it. So
exactly.
Thank you so much, Juan, for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a great opportunity to, just catch back up with you, meet you in person, instead of our normal, our normal panels that we have via Zoom, but still, this has been great to catch up. And thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to talk a little bit about 5G.
Absolutely.
This interview is also brought to you by Comcast Government Services. Find out how Comcast Government Services is providing solutions to the federal government that enable mission-critical network transformation designed to scale with evolving needs. Visit comcastbusiness.com/FedGov to learn more.